Let's revisit Oregon's psilocybin program for a moment or two. For those of you wondering, what is that? Well, it's the psychedelic compound found in several kinds of mushrooms. Oregon voters decided to make magic mushrooms legal with Measure 109 passed back in 2020. But it will not be available like cannabis. The psilocybin program has really strict regulations that only allow you to eat the mushrooms inside a licensed service center while being monitored by a licensed facilitator. And, oh yeah, the mushrooms have to be grown by a licensed manufacturer and tested by a licensed lab ahead of time. Get the theme there? Licensing. The Oregon Health Authority started issuing licenses at the beginning of the year. They have not really given out that many. The totals are 3 manufacturers or mushroom growers, 1 laboratory, that's the Rose City Labs that we showed you a few weeks ago. Check out the segment on our YouTube channel if you missed it. 3 service centers and 14 facilitators, so 21 licenses total. Advocates for the psilocybin program say research shows the compounds can help people dealing with depression, addiction, PTSD, even end-of-life care. Despite those potential uses, though, voters in 25 of Oregon's 36 counties voted to ban those psilocybin service centers in their community. They basically said, no, we don't want them here. And that's all fine and good if you feel that way, but if you live in one of those counties, you could still be helping to pay for the program that's happening somewhere else in the state. I know you're probably not too thrilled about that, but guess what? It is looking more and more likely that that's going to happen. We think this article from Willamette Week is worth your time. It's written by Anthony Effinger late last month. It says taxpayers may soon be filling the funding gaps in Oregon's psilocybin system. Licensing fees were supposed to pay for the program after 2 years. Well, the proponents of Measure 109, which created the psilocybin program, designed it to be funded by fees and a tax on mushrooms themselves. That way they could garner more voter support by saying, hey, we're not going to use any taxpayer dollars once it's up and running for 2 years. Well, here's a look at the fees for all of the licensing required to be part of the program. Manufacturers, labs, and service centers have to each pay $10,000 a year, and facilitators pay $2,000 annually. Add those into the 15% tax on psilocybin products themselves, and voila, you have the funding. But there's one problem, one very big problem. Because those fees are so steep, there's not a lot of people stepping in to get a license right now. The psilocybin services program is estimated to cost $3.1 million a year, and in theory be fully funded by those fees, but they are falling woefully short right now. Remember the number of licenses given out so far? 21. If you add up all their licensing fees for this first year, you get $98,000. And because there are not a lot of service centers up and running, the tax on psilocybin itself will not bring in nearly enough to cover the rest of that $3.1 million. Not even close. So what's that mean? Well, the state has to find money somewhere else to keep the program going. Where is the most convenient place to look? The general fund, our tax dollars, of course. Willamette Week reports that OHA has asked for $6.6 million to fill the budget gap for the next biennium, the next 2 years. The head of the psilocybin program told Willamette Week, "We don't believe that licensing fees will be enough to cover the first year of the biennium. We knew it would take some time for licensees to be ready. There are a lot of unknowns right now." One of the biggest issues is if that money will even materialize. Governor Kotek did not put OHA's request for psilocybin money into her recommended budget. Instead, she said to use other fees to pay for the shortfall. According to Willamette Week, other fees means licensing fees, and there's clearly not enough of those. But a spokeswoman for the governor says the state will find the money to keep the program going. She said the governor's office would support a legislative budget committee pointing money toward the program. But I don't know if you've heard, there's a little problem in Salem, the Republican walkout. And what the next budget looks like, it's a little bit up in the air, even if it's going to be passed. And one more question explored by Willamette Week worth considering. Can the program really expect to run on just licensing fees in the future? According to our calculations, even if every single application submitted to OHA thus far was approved, the fees would only bring in around $650,000 annually. Still far, far short of the $3.1 million needed. So there's a lot up in the air right now on the fledgling psilocybin experiment in Oregon. But in order to keep the experiment going, sure starting to look like your tax dollars are going to be needed.